I can definitely hear that when when you ding.
You're on, bud.
I don't see me.
You're on YouTube. Start talking.
Hey everyone, Scott Jernigan here, along with Dave Rush. And I have to turn my sound down. Hold on. So, kind of a surprising, startling Wednesday today. Mike called early this morning and said he was not feeling well. And before you ask, we don't know yet. He's getting tested. But to fill in, my buddy Dave Rush agreed to jump in with me and do this Ask Us Anything with Dave Rush and Scott Jernigan. So, you know the drill by now. You just ask questions and we answer whatever we can. So we're here doing this as a favor for our community, for our teachers and students, people who are preparing for the CompTIA A+, Network Plus, Security Plus exams, or just need some little love and comfort and support out there in our lovely Quarantineville. So say hi, Dave.
Greetings, nice to see everybody.
And Dave, of course, being an old hand at this, since he went emergency, a week ago Friday? And when Mike's feed just sort of died on him, his internet connection died, and Dave just jumped in and said, hey. So you've met Dave before if you've been on this feed for a while. Oh, just because you're here, we have a special going. You can just go to www.totalsim.com. And this week, oh, where'd my chat go? It's got to be a better way.
I got it, Scott. How about A+, N+, S+ super bundles and Total Seminars standalone CompTIA total tester practice tests.
All for 50% off. This week, just type in the code MMLive615 at checkout, and you'll get that fabulous discount on some really awesome test help and study aids. So
Mike doesn't mention this a lot. I think it's worthy of note. You've heard me mention it in the past. This is not an offer that we broadcast. This, quite literally, you know, when Mike says, just because you're kind enough to turn up here, well, literally, it's for you guys. Nobody else out there knows about this code. We don't publish it. We don't post it. We provide it to the folks who are willing to spend their time with us. So for the 27 of you right now and climbing, this is a deal. I mean, so besides the fact that it's just an awesome deal and a half, talk about an exclusive offer for a handful of you. So take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Good call. So who do we have? Tulowit, of course. Good morning to you. JS Robbie. Hey. Alan Duggan. PvP boy. Welcome. What are we drinking today? Dr. Quinn. Hi. Network Mage. Edward Phoebe. Hacking Cracking. Well, hello. Kevin Terry. Geraldine. Hi. I feel like I'm meeting you all for the first time.
Isn't that fun?
It is fun.
I've checked out a couple of these folks' YouTube channels. I've checked out PvPs, and not surprisingly, you're going to find a good bit of first-person gaming stuff going on there, and lots of captures. And
surprise, surprise.
Some of the people that I've looked at here have left cold chills run down my spine.
Awesome. So,
hey, well, I see a message here from Harsh Patel. Hello, both. Greetings. I've completed A+ certification and Sec+ training. Way to go. And you talk about skipping the middle one that nobody ever skips. So good for you. I have interview scheduled with Amazon for IT support tomorrow. Congratulations. Tips and tricks for this interview. Scott, you know the drill from Mike as well as anybody, and you've been doing this a little longer.
So, in the immortal words of Mike, bathe before you go. Even if the interview seems like it might be a casual thing, like when you first met the people, they're like, oh yeah, come on, whatever. Don't. You don't have to go in a full suit or anything, but good, clean, office capable attire, as if you were dressed a little better than the people that you see at their office. That would make sense. Brush your teeth, comb your hair, relax, do some just chill, some breathing, and if you do, I would meditate a little before you get ready, just to kind of bring yourself into your center and be prepared for whatever they're going to ask. They'll ask you about certifications, and they'll of course see your resume, which I assume that you have or have already given them. So they'll be discussing that and looking at your resume and going, what are your qualifications and such, and just be straight with them. They're also probably, since it's IT support, they're going to start asking you questions to test your level of knowledge. The important thing is no technobabble. Get to a point where you're comfortable, because they're going to try and push you to see how you're going to respond with customers. And you need to be able to say, I don't know, when you don't know.
Right. Remember, they're asking you questions that they know the answers to, and they're looking for the ones with how you're ready to deal with it. When you don't know that answer, you don't know the answer. You be honest, be upfront, and say, but I'd sure like to learn.
And you could always toss it right back at them and say, I don't know. Let me ask my supervisor.
Very good.
Andrew, taking the A+ 1002 tomorrow. That's exciting.
I got a thought or two on that. Let's parrot Mike's. Mike likes the idea that says, after you've been studying your brains out for weeks and the big day before comes, his answer is chill out, cool out, take a beer and let it stew and relax. Okay, it's now time. If you are the procrastinator who doesn't do his final exam until the night before, that's not the place for this kind of activity. At this point, we should know our stuff. We should be ready to go. But I do have one addition to Mike's, and that is, if I'm about to do a test on the next day, as we all do at Total Seminars, we take them periodically, I do one last brush of the objectives. Pull down the CompTIA objective list and just read it objective by objective. What do I know about this? What am I uncomfortable about this? And maybe do a quick little bit of brush up. Scott?
Yeah, I think that's a good call. And unlike Mike, I do look at the objectives. I look at my notes before I go in to take an exam. That's just the way I have always been better at taking tests. When I just sleep on it and don't think about it the next day, then I tend to go, oh darn, if I'd only looked at that list of port numbers, I would have got it, but that's the thing I would probably look at right before you take your exam, because you can then go into the exam and start writing on their little virtual whiteboard.
Right. It's really interesting. You guys are getting a look at the three of us who do the stand-up and the electronic training face-to-face. And just within the three of us, how we prepare for things is so very different. Mike knows everything. His preparation goes the night before. What I want to talk about tomorrow. Scott writes a script starting 6 months out from the beginning, prepping for a class. And he knows every word that he's going to say and has it in writing. And I fall somewhere in between. So, and it's the same thing with test preparation. It's the same thing with everything in life. And if we had three more people who did stand-up training at our company, there'd probably be three more methodologies.
This is true. And Dave is only half joking about the 6 months preparation time. It's usually more like 3. I tend to be pretty over-prepared when I teach, which is the way I roll. So.
Okay, and let's see. There's something cool here. Steve, I know you're wondering if robots are alive, and I'm watching your beep, beep, doop, doop. And I think you may have proved that, in fact, robots are taking over the world. Tell you what, I did not look at your channel. I was afraid to. I got the chills before. Now we talk about you. You hold we hold a lot of respect for you. You're very thoughtful and very complete, and we truly appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Oh, right. Way to go, Geraldine.
Carry mint.
Good attire. If you turn up in Scott's black tank top for your interview, it's not going to go that well.
But you look cool.
And then again, yeah, it could be a 1950s greaser thing. Dr. Quinn, teeth brushing, it's your option. It depends on whether or not you want the job, I suppose. Carry mint.
If you're just doing it to collect unemployment, that's a different question. Different answer.
Good. Curiously strong mints, always a good call.
Yep. So Steve G asked, debating whether or not to get the A+ first or the AWS or Azure fundamentals. I would definitely get the A+ first. There's a lot of assumptions about hardware and software that when you're diving into AWS, that they assume you understand how servers work and that kind of stuff. Do you have something different, Dave, or you?
I don't know, I'm kind of thinking it both ways. You've got to have fundamentals, without doubt. I'm just wondering if the end goal is AWS, where you're not really doing much in the magical, mystical world of hardware. It's a conceptual level, to take from our friend Michael Smyer. It's an abstracted world. I think the networking layer is really, really critical, but whether or not you can install a CPU, I wonder if that's, most germane to supporting an AWS or an Azure world. But that's the funny thing. We kind of knew that would happen when we got together. We're going to have some perspective differences. But yeah, if you don't speak PC at all, if you don't know how an operating system works, how software works with that, by all means, that's covered in A+, and it's a great thing to get under your belt. Do you need to know how to change out a power supply? Maybe not so much. And maybe Michael will pop in here, offer some thoughts.
And Michael did pop in on Teams, and he thinks that that it's a pretty big jump from A+ to AWS, and that getting some fundamentals under your belt, even if you don't take the A+ exam, studying for it and getting the knowledge would make a lot of sense to me.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
All right, who's next?
Hey, we need some questions, folks. So keep us busy here, because Mike's mantra, we'll get bored and we'll just shut down. Brendan, Scott, and Dave, when we write batch files, do we memorize how to write each step in the command line, or do we find pre-written scripts online? Batch files is the easiest programming language ever to tread the earth. So you need to know two things about batch files. First of all, the commands that you're going to use in them. And while there are a few internal commands, 97.75% of the commands that you use within a batch file are the same commands that you use in a command line. So if you know what you're going to do and all you're trying to do is create a script, that's what we're really getting down to in the magical, mystical world of batch files. We don't have to go online. You're not going to find a script online that meets exactly what you're planning on doing. You're writing a batch file that welcomes somebody when they log into the system and maps a drive to here and simple things like that. So it's a very logical progression, and it's not something that you're going to memorize step by step. You're going to create it on the fly. There are a few things in the batch file scripting language, programming language, whatever you want to call it, that are unique, that you can't necessarily do or can't do well from the command line, such as the use of variables. There's looping capability and things like that. Now, if you're looking to do this to pass the A+ test, everything on A+ is so rudimentary, you don't need anything that I just said. You're going to need 2 or 3 steps and recognize that the file extension is .bat. But if you're looking to do programming in batch file, stop. We're done with batch files. We use PowerShell now and a number of other scripting environments. So, Scott, what do you think?
I think you're right on, man.
Yeah.
So, Andre de Guyert says, I'm taking 1001 on Friday. Good luck. 2 days. Good luck, but it sounds like you won't need it, the whole luck thing anyway. So it's all good.
Right.
And
Andre, again, like Tolowit, has asked a lot of insightful questions and provided a lot of good answers to other folks on here.
So, and Edward Faubel, I still don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Have you thought about a volume 1 and a volume 2 box set for the A+ 11th edition? You could always just get the Kindle edition. That's lighter than all of them. It didn't weigh anything at all.
I got to tell you, at the risk of,
it's hard to be honest. It's hard for us to split the book into two. We've done it in the past, and it's really artificial. As Mike put it, that 1001 and 1002 is a cleaner split between topics. So we could do just the first half of the book and the second half of the book as two pieces, as almost the 1001 versus 1002. And we'll see what the 11th edition brings as far as the objectives come. And if it's an easy split, then yeah, we would split it. Our publisher would love it if we split it, because then the books would cost pretty much the same and they'd sell twice. But yeah, I know the weight is an issue.
USA Health Insurance Reform. That is just an amazing name. You know, if Mike was watching this right now, he would say, call me and explain that. So hi, Scott and Dave, do you think if you're crushing MCs from a variety of sources, Mike's, Comp, and the rest of the list that you have there, you're in good shape from CompTIA exam? I do them over and over without trying to memorize. Well, of course, that's the trick. Yes, it's great to get different perspectives from multiple sources. It's a wonderful thing to do. Probably the most important thing to do is, of course, start with Mike's and get 90% of your basis from there, and then go get a couple of other different perspectives. The better readiness indicator is practice test. And in the way that Mike and all of us have recommended for years, take a practice test. Note what you get right and say, okay, I've got that topic, that material down. Note what you've missed and stop. Don't go take the test again and take another guess and get it right and say, I'm ready to go. Go and research the information that you missed. Learn what it is that you missed, why you missed it, and then take that test again. And it's really important, I think, when you take a practice test, to be able to look at the question, look at the right answer and know why it's the right answer, and also to look at every wrong answer and be able to explain why this is wrong. That gives you a total breadth of the topic and some of the off topics that get addressed there. And once you're crushing those, Mike's practice test at the 85, 90% level, yeah, you're ready. Scott?
That seemed complete to me, man.
I love when that happens. Which of us looks different without the hat hacking? Brendan, hello. Brendan, throw me a response on here sometime. Did I just see you in the last 24 hours on Udemy? I got a Brendan who asked a question, I don't know, maybe it was this morning or last night or something, that looked like your handwriting. So, hey, Scott and Dave, when we write batch files, do we memorize? We did that. How to step command or find pre-written skips. I slid up. I did the mic thing. Both perspectives. Double shot of tequila from Steve G. Thank you, buddy. Tolowit, do either of you guys code?
Obviously.
Okay, so here, go ahead. Yeah, there's a coding question for you, Scott, and I think Mike has some input on that.
So Tolowit, do either of you guys code? Do you have languages under your belt, or just bodge stuff together? Bodge, I love that. Stuff together you find. We at Total Seminars use Python, JavaScript. I'm actually looking at Michael's answers, because Michael and the person who you never see on here, Travis, are our primary programmers. So they use Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, PHP, PowerShell regularly today, was the answer from Michael. And then we've used Java, C++, and Batch in the past. I'm currently learning Python because I'm desperately trying to understand when Michael speaks sometimes. So I get on the morning calls with Michael and Travis just because we do our check-in, because we're all doing this remotely, right? And just to make sure everybody's out of their pajamas, we have our morning call. And oftentimes by the time I get there, Michael and Travis are already deep in whatever coding moment that they're in. And I just kind of sit there, sip my coffee until somebody takes a breath and like, oh, good morning.
Let's see. PvP boy, A+ is really great. However, never say however after you say how great it is. However, when I look over jobs, I see they expect Active Directory and Office 365, other topics that A+ doesn't cover. And do you think it's important for help desk? Sure, there are topics that A+ doesn't cover. Think about how A+ works. CompTIA is this big lobby organization that everybody in the computer biz that you've ever heard of is a member of. And they get together with some people over there and they say, hey, we're going to create a set of objectives that we think an introductory technician ought to know. And so they get people from Microsoft and they get people from Cisco and from Dell and from all these gazillions, and they get input there and they select subject matter experts from there and they create these objectives. And again, I'm sure there's somebody over at Amazon who says, we think they ought to understand CloudFront. And no, that's going to move over into Cloud Plus or something like that. So yeah, there's a billion things that's not covered by A+. So the thing to do is to pick that job that you want, that job that makes you joy, not the job that gets you the money, and find, and the 10 companies, the 20 companies who are looking for people who would fit that job and the requirements. And there's where you pick your educational path. If you're looking for a job where it's a common thing that you should be able to speak and understand Active Directory, sounds like an Active Directory course might be in your future. For Office 365, get a subscription, use it, practice it.
Yeah, the forums, the Microsoft forums for Office 365 are very active, and lots of really good people on there that can answer all kinds of questions too. So we missed one by Network Mage.
Yep.
What is the best cloud technology to specialize in that has the most future growth? I've been messing around with AWS, Desktop as a Service, and VDI, virtual desktop. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Virtual desktop infrastructure. AWS is huge, and I don't see it going anywhere but bigger. And that it is a phenomenal growth field at this point. I mean, we've switched everything, almost everything in Total Seminars, with the exception of Office 365 to AWS. So this is it's a deal, and we're just one small fish in a much bigger pond.
Great, thank you. This is great, however, makes sense.
Oh, and PvP boy, you're welcome. It is good to see us as something other than chat. So that was fun. Mike had planned to bring us in like on Friday, and then we just moved the schedule up. So these things happen.
Greg Davis, hi everyone.
We're in Texas, Steve, where marijuana is still very much a felony. So you can smoke it for me.
Much to the chagrin of many of the folks within the environment.
This is true.
Greg, hi. Different format. Good to see you too. Likewise, Greg Davis. Thank you so much. Edward just had a disconnect using the video series that was split into the exams while the physical book I was jumping around. Okay, so that's worthy of note. And I've been trying to find a way that we can communicate that effectively to everybody what's going on, because I'm the primary moderator on the video lesson forums, Udemy and a couple others. And it confuses some people that will say, section 1 covers chapter 1, section 2 covers chapter 3. Hey, what happened to chapter 2? Well, what Mike did was he culled out the critical elements from the books that are appropriate for section 1, chapter 1, and put them in core 1, 220-101, and then different chapters in the other course, core 2, 220-002. So if you're looking through that, if you guys are playing Udemy and you're looking down the list and you see an incomplete sequence of chapters, you're not missing anything. Those chapters get covered in the other course. So I'm trying to figure out if writing a PDF is the way to go, or have Mike do a little quickie intro video that explains that. Or you could just tell your friends what we told you here now and what's covered.
Right. So
Brendan,
Brendan,
go ahead,
for it.
Scott.
I'll read the question, you answer it.
All right.
So Brendan, why does Microsoft recommend third-party tools for system imaging now? What's their reasoning behind that?
So there's a two-part answer.
Okay.
One, you're asking us to read the mind of Microsoft. And for the most part, we're a sane group, and going down that road couldn't possibly be a good thing. Michael, who's very close to these kinds of things, speculates that there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of third-party products that do this well. And for Microsoft to jump into the fray, number one, it's not cost-effective to compete with them. And number two, when you consider the complexity of doing imaging, especially imaging for the purpose of duplicating a drive, not just recovery, not just backup, there's a lot of variables, and it's just going to require a huge bit of departmental growth and accompaniment. So I think the really critical point here, you bring up a great question, and the answer is, I don't know. I don't know why Microsoft does what they do. I accept it just like everybody else does. But recognize this, for everybody playing in the A+ arena, related to imaging, and maybe more importantly, related to recovery. Let's take something really simple. You have just deleted a file. You held down the shift key when you delete a file. Anybody know what that does? What happens when you hold down the shift key and you delete a file? That's right. Somebody, yeah, Scott knows. Scott, what happens?
Perma deletes. It skips the
recycle.
recycle.
It perma deletes it. So what we mean when we say that is it doesn't go into the recycle bin. It has the effect of having gone into the recycle bin and then been deleted from the recycle bin. So back to the original point. Microsoft does not have a mechanism by which you can recover that file. The same thing happens if you're in the command line environment and you delete a file. Never bothers to stop off at the recycle bin. It's just gone. So when you get a question on a CompTIA exam about a situation like that, the answer is going to be, you can't get it back. But then you switch over to the real world and find out that there are 2,000 utilities that will recover that file as long as the moon aligns in the right place. And the bottom line is you haven't overwritten the space that occupies that file. But that file is still in that old space. And for third-party utilities, it's a relatively simple thing to do. But here's that. Don't add assumptions. Don't add information above and beyond what they're providing in questions or answers. The answer is Microsoft doesn't have a utility to recover deleted files, and that's what CompTIA expects us to parrot. Imaging, same thing. And a lot of if there's a third-party product that Microsoft could, should, would have made, but they didn't, because for whatever reason that we will never understand, they didn't.
My go-to tool is weirdly named Rakuva. I typed that in the chat, and I've used it a lot. It's a very clean tool made by the same people that make CC Cleaner.
Might I suggest it's called Recover?
Well, it is, except it's spelled weird.
Okay.
I have to pronounce it weirdly, otherwise I won't spell it right. Surely you do that too, right?
Absolutely.
You pronounce Wednesday instead of Wednesday.
That's right.
And in the right place. But you don't say it out loud because then you sound like an idiot. Oh, wait.
Dr. Quinn, while I do understand that keeping abreast with technology is essential, is it true that A+ cert before 2010 is almost eternal? The certification, if you acquired it before January 1st of 2011, is grandfathered for life. You can stick it on your resume and you never have to remove it from there. as to whether or not the
It has been
technology becomes a part of you osmotically as time goes by. Maybe not
Right.
so much.
I mean, I can kill it in DOS and win 3-1. Just saying.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were finished. Eternal, but nice, Michael. I'm not answering that. Yeah, right. I'm with you on this one, Michael. I saw that question and we're of a mind here. Network Mage. How do I hash a physical drive on Windows like C drive? Is there an open source application that does this? You want to hash the entire contents of a hard drive. Cannot for the life of me, neither can Michael, figure out why you'd want to do that, because it's a moving target. Microsoft is changing the contents every second. So if you've got a hash of it, it changed a second ago. Now, is there some value in I just backed up my entire hard drive and now I'll make a hash of that backup if for some reason before I choose to do a restore, I want to run a hash against it and make sure nothing has changed? Yeah, that's kind of cool. I cannot say for myself that I'm aware of a utility that can do that. There are plenty of utilities out there that will take multiple files and gen a single hash out of them, but I don't know if they're cognizant of the invisible and buried and system files that are found on a Microsoft Windows drive. Oh, wait a minute. Michael says, but on Windows, you can do a file with get-file hash in PowerShell.
We haven't hit that question yet. Network Mage, how do I hash a physical hard drive on Windows like a C drive? Is there an open source application that does this? Why? That's the first question. Why do you want to do, what are you trying to accomplish? And is running a hash on an entire drive the answer? I don't know, is my direct answer to your question. Michael suggests that you can hash an individual file using PowerShell. What's the command, Dave?
Get-file hash.
Pretty straightforward. Get-file hash.
But if you're just looking to hash a file, there are 470,000 hash utilities out there. They're online available. You can download them. They're great and fine and full. Reading along, as Mike would say, waiting for a break.
So Network Mage followed up, as we said, why? And he said for forensics purposes, why you would want to hash. I would then pull an image of the drive and hash that image rather than trying to do something directly with hardware, because the image file, then you could use that as your, use that to do the hashing.
Very good. Tolowit, I'm trying to learn Python as well to prep for A+. You don't have to know Python for A+, do you, Scott?
No, you don't. Yeah. There's a very little bit of programming stuff. We have to recognize what some of these things are. But to actually know how to code, no, you do not need that for A+ or Net+ for that.
People ask this question all the time: what's the best programming language for me to learn? And there's no right answer, of course, to that. It all depends on what you're doing and why you're doing it. However, if there is a go-to first language to learn, to live and work in the Linux environment, the Unix environment, Python's probably a pretty doggone good place to start.
That's every programmer that I asked when I said, okay, I'm going to learn to program. And they're like, Python. I mean, universally, that was the answer. So
yeah, good. Tanner Suva, waiting for a break and developer conversations are rare. Trust me, unless somebody jumps in, I won't know they're there.
That happens, seriously. Yeah. And then they look at me like I understand what they're talking about. And I'm like, man, yeah, they're speaking Greek. Or worse, you're speaking Klingon.
Yeah, glad you like that, PvP. PvP boys, he's answering that question for you, so good to go. Andre, you can't delete your message. Look at all those messages. Oh, that's Jake's deleted. Andre, yeah, you can't delete your messages. We have to know what you want to say.
We had a couple of spammers jump in.
Okay. So funny. Job requirement saved. That would be my dream job. One requirement says exposure to VoIP systems. Do you have voice over IP for everybody? Do you have any advice on learning this from an IT technician's side? Yeah, there are VoIP implementation classes out there, from the hardware, software configuration. There are classes, content, book, or the IP internals. So if we want to learn session initiation protocol and the other 14 protocols that are involved in VoIP, there's an anti-echo protocol, related protocols like QoS and similar to things like that. So yeah, I think if you want to become a VoIP installer, supporter, very much worthwhile, excuse me, to pursue those. Scott says, I use Recover for recovering. Good Lord, where did all those come from? You're way ahead of me. I didn't see all that. I'm trying to stay on.
I forgot to. Normally, I'm the moderator for the things, and so I would have stamped down on that very quickly. But because I'm doing the same thing Mike does now, I'm reading your questions, not seeing them pop in real time. I didn't see it, and I forgot to tell Michael how to do that because he's being our moderator today. So there you go.
All right. Just got past all of them now. So network mage, I meant hatching and provisionings. You got that.
Right.
Tulowit, what does the trim feature on an SSD do to clean up and reuse deleted areas per A+? Will using trim too often make a big difference on the life of the drive? Okay, what is trim? If we go back to hard drives and think about the defrag process, we have to defrag on a hard drive because as hard drives fragment, file chunks are no longer found in linear sequential spots on the disk. That's great when they do, because then the hard drive head can park itself here, and then the drive spins underneath it, and we get all of that nice data from a single track. But I deleted this file and I saved another file, and some of it fit into there and some of it fit into here. And so now I have to do more head motions back and forth, and it takes longer and longer to both write and to read files. So we defrag hard drives. SSDs don't suffer from this. The nice thing about an SSD is when you get down to it, it's super fast, faster than RAM. So if we put it in an uncoordinated, a disorganized fashion, it doesn't hurt the recovery time or the time to read off a file.
Right.
And we don't need to make them linear. But here's the problem with SSDs. Unlike dynamic RAM, there is a finite number of write cycles for the memory cells that are in there, for the contents cells. And that number varies depending on what generation of hard drive. There are some that'll run 100,000 rewrite cycles on a given cell. If you look at some of the premium SSDs, they have some higher numbers. There's a name for that, for the one from SanDisk that escapes me. Maybe somebody will throw that in. But there are two things that's one of the things that we want to avoid doing. The system tracks within the SSD. There is a tracker that identifies how many times a given cell has been overwritten, and trim will reorganize the drive to take advantage of underwritten cells and make them available for overwriting. And the opposite, I guess, would be the right thing to do. The other thing is partial fills. Hard drives can't partially fill a sector. We remember the old sectors used to be 512 bytes, and modern sectors today are 4096 bytes. And if you save a 1 byte file into a sector, all the rest of that sector space is unused. And it doesn't get used until we free up that sector, until we delete the file content there. So you might run into that if you save a single small file, or if it's just the tail end of a larger file. You have no control over that. Trim can, in some instances and drives, take advantage of that blank space and say, you know what, I can use that, I can track it. So can you over trim it? Nah, because it's just going to refer to the tracking table and say, yeah, we're in good shape, or yeah, we could do a little cleanup.
Yep.
Was that for a 40-minute answer for a 10-word question? Just call me Mike.
Especially Dave. So Kevin Terry asks, hello, I was going to purchase the 2 total tester CompTIA A+ practice tests and the A+ Total Sims interactive simulations. Is this all I need? I would suggest a book or some videos or something as your primary source. You would definitely need that, unless you already have that knowledge and you're pretty comfortable with the A+ topics, you've read through the objectives and you're like, yeah, I pretty much know how to do all this stuff. Then doing the practice exams, seeing what you know and don't know, it would work fine. Then you would use something else if you hit a spot, because A+ is so broad that, I mean, even if you're already a good tech, when was the last time you poked your hand at database programming? I mean, it's covered, it's in the objectives, right? I mean, it's like, oh, I've never done that because I'm a screwdriver tech. That's the kind of stuff that you need a source for. You can find a lot of things free online. So going out and buying a book, not necessarily our book or anything, or even checking one out from the library would be good. So I would suggest.
You can't learn the content of the test. You can't learn the topics by reading practice tests.
Right.
You're going to memorize them. And as Mike has said before, we don't and can't use CompTIA practice test questions. We write ours because we are helping you evaluate the knowledge that you've gained.
So, and just one more word on the one, I'm going to do a Dave here, a lot more one words on the practice exams. One of the things, and I assume that a lot of you are using them to study for A+ or Net+ or Security+, we can't give you the specific CompTIA questions, but we've all taken these exams multiple times, and then we compare notes. We have a sense of what's going to be on the exam, what kind of questions and the subjects. And so we write our questions as close as we can without getting sued, or we'll write the question backwards. So we'll start from what I know is the correct answer and then ask you about all the other stuff that's in that real exam question. And it's in the explanations for the wrong answers as well as the right answer. That's where you're getting the meat of what you'll see on CompTIA. I talk with my hands a lot, sorry. I'll try to settle down, but I can't. You should see me in class. I'm bouncing on tables and running up and down the halls, throwing erasers at people.
This next question is specifically for you from Brendan. When people ask what degree is best to have for IT, I always suggest looking at the strengths from your degree type. My history degree has helped me when researching IT. So what do you think? Is there a best degree for IT?
I'll take that question.
I thought you should.
Yeah, so I have my bachelor's in political science and a master's in medieval history. So I'm right there with you, Brendan, on the history. For me, it was the preparation to be able to look at a topic and study it in detail and pay attention to details, because that matters. It also helped a lot in problem solving, because as you're doing research to solve a problem, you want to be able to toss your preconceived notions out the window, right? When I'm writing a historical paper on some topic, I don't want to go in knowing the answer. I want to to examine my sources and then put that together into what is true, or as true as I can do it. That same kind of being able to take up pieces from all over and come to some conclusion is a great way to go into troubleshooting. So that path worked for me. It also enabled me to polish my writing, which, since I'm also a book writer, that helps. On the other hand, Dave, you have a totally different experience.
Yeah, I have technical degrees. So my background is physics and electrical engineering. The electrical engineering plays right into the supporting PC's role. The physics is a degree that's about problem solving. It's doing the same thing that Scott does. It says, dump your preconceived notions and look at the problem and take it apart, put it in pieces, and find those pieces that can put back together. So, and as some of you know, I had an aviation career, and it was kind of an interesting thing. I met a zillion other pilots who had non-aviation oriented degrees, because when you get down to it, being a pilot is a trade. It's not something that you need a degree for. And I guess one of the interesting and unrelated things about it is the guys who did have aviation degrees, what you can do with that is run an airport, a small one. And whenever aviation downturns come, and they come every few years, they're all out of work and delivering pizzas at Chuck E. Cheese's.
So Geraldine, weather in Texas don't change much, right? I like that. You even said that like a Texan.
That's right.
Sorry if it seems off topic. It was something mentioned in the A+ book. Make sure you have the latest drivers, because most device drivers change more often than the weather in Texas. There's a couple of different answers to that question. One, Texas is huge. Just to put it in perspective, Texas is pretty much the size of France. It's country size in its own right. The greater Houston area is the size of the entire state of Rhode Island. So weather all over Texas changes. So if you're driving through Texas, be prepared for anything. The weather in Houston, it doesn't change much until hurricanes come, and then it just gets exciting.
At the beginning of summer, weathercasters record the weather. Hazy, hot, and humid, chance of thunder showers in the afternoon. And then they come back in late August or mid-September, maybe early October, and then they do the winter forecast.
Right.
So yeah, it doesn't change. It's consistent.
Yeah, we only have 2 seasons in Houston.
Yeah.
Right? Just summer, 9 months a year, and then what we call winter. Yeah. If it actually drops below freezing, we're very excited. And people freak out and wrap their pipes.
And every now and again, we get a freeze, and it's worthwhile.
That's right.
Network Mage wants to know why there are so few cybersecurity jobs in power plants, especially nuclear. I rarely see these jobs come up, but they seem very important. I think they seem very important. We look at nuclear power plants as high security places. They are. Cybersecurity, what we need to protect from an IT infrastructure and data is from access from the outside world, or they of course need to communicate with the outside world. So that certainly qualifies as cybersecurity, but not so much in the sense that we think of cybersecurity today, which is about encryption and hacking and things like that. So I think there are probably, it is a relatively simple skill set to lock down inside data. And yeah, you need a person to do that at each facility and an expert. And they have a lot of guidelines, a lot of rules that are kind of predefined for them from NRC and groups like that. So I don't know the answer to that. Why don't they have more cybersec people? Michael proposes that there is a salary impact. Maybe the job is relatively low qualifications and therefore doesn't pay that much. I don't know. My guess is if you call any nuclear power plant and ask them some cybersecurity questions, you will get no answers, but you will get a visit from some armed people who would like to talk to you more. Andrew's going to leave us. See you tomorrow. Hey, quick commercial for everybody. Next Thursday. Oh, Scott's talking. I see your lips moving, but I don't see anything happening.
Andrew's taking his test tomorrow.
Yes, I see that. He's got a 10:01, right? So good luck, Andrew. Next Thursday, the 25th. Now, you know we do, Mike does AMAs on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We have had a number of folks who are interested in and who have asked questions about Raspberry Pis. And so I asked Mike a little while ago, can I do a Ras Pi session on one of the off days? And he has very kindly agreed to let me do that. So Mike will do next week his usual Monday, Wednesday, Friday, health permitting. And then I'm going to do the usual 2-hour special on Thursday. That'll be Raspberry Pi oriented. Ask Dave anything. Somebody once, after I did my last one, somebody sent me an email and said, it should be called drama. Dave Rush, ask me anything. So, okay, we'll do drama next Thursday. If you're interested in Raspberry Pis, if you're interested in seeing how they can be used in training and practice for any of the courses, the big three, the trifecta, A+, Net+, Sec+, pop in there. I'll take other questions, but I've got a few presentation kind of things in mind, and we'll take any Ras Pi oriented, Doug, if you're interested at all in that. All right, there's my commercial. This episode brought to you by Raspberry Pi and Dave Rush.
Speaking of commercials,
yes,
this would probably be a great time to pop our contact information up on screen.
I was thinking the same thing.
If you have detailed questions, and depending on where Mike's at on Friday, whether he's immediately recovered and it was just a stomach bug instead of something worse, Dave and I could be on again Friday. So wouldn't that be exciting? But if you have detailed questions, you need to be able to contact us directly. So at some point, Dave is going to learn how to screen share. There we go. And that's our contact information. You see Mike's email addresses up there. He actually looks at both of them. So whichever one you feel comfortable doing, his work email or his corporate email is themichaelm@totalsim.com. His private email is desweds at protonmail. My corporate email is scottj@totalsim.com, and Dave's is daver@totalsim.com. If you're running into Mike on Steam, it's Senor Pepe. I'm on Steam as well. It's my Steam handle is Scarhart, SCARHART. I often don't play well with others, but if you send me a message and say, hey, let's play, if I have the game, I could be game. You can contact us through our phone number, 281-922-4166. That gets rerouted to our reception area, who's working out of her house. Mandy, she's awesome. Our reception person, not our reception area, sorry. And it'll get to us. So that's another way to contact us. And like Mike, we'll just pick up our cell phones and call you back. So it's all good.
Thanks, Scott. I will
so contact us with questions if you have something a little more complicated. And even if Mike is recovered and you have sent messages to me and or to Dave, we'll tell him those questions and he'll know them as well. So that can work very well for you.
And as you may well know, Mike loves to get your emails. He loves to get your specific questions. He'll either answer you directly, he'll call you, or he'll take that up as a question to talk about here in the AMAs. So please write them. And remember, if this material is going by too fast, this stuff is recorded. Check in any of the lectures that we've done on any day and just scan in for the first mostly few minutes, except for today, and you'll find this stuff again. So easy to find.
So Network Mage, this is an interesting one. In your opinion, what's the best SIEM to train myself on right now for security? I thought Splunk, but maybe I'm wrong. To which I answer, I don't know.
same boat.
Okay.
SIM used to be part of Net Plus, and actually, no, it still is.
It is still, but
Yeah,
not
it still is, but it's just
not in any.
conceptual. It's very light.
Yeah, it's incredibly light. Even in the 601 objectives that I don't know anything about. Of course, we know in advance, but it's still there, but it's still very light. You kind of need, it's more of a conceptual, what does it do? Where is it used? As opposed to becoming an expert in it.
Right. Sometimes CompTIA will throw these objectives in their objective list when Scott's writing a book and Mike is writing a book. And we say, holy Hannah, ever hear of SIM before? No. Well, so we go out, we research it, we try and fit it into the construct and frame that CompTIA is thinking. We put as much as we believe is going to be tested. And that's where our expertise ends. Not Mike, he digs deep into every single topic and knows so much more about it than anybody could.
That's Michael.
And Michael.
Oh, hey, Steve Plassman. Good to see you.
Yeah, I saw him send a message earlier. Just a quick response.
Yeah.
Steve Plassman is saying, I was force-fed CompTIA A+ objectives in IT boot camp and told to memorize answer. You guys give examples and rhymes and reasons. And it's why I work in IT. It's how I learn. Good. We're glad. We think most people are kind of like that. Thank you, Andre, for not deleting your post. I always try to read the questions, then see what the answers are wrong and why. Yeah, right. Process of elimination. The one that remains must be the correct answer. I think multiple choice is often just a reading exercise. Yes. That and the one other thing. This is the one thing that I just pound people on in my support forums. You've got to understand how CompTIA write questions. They are very exacting. They are very specific. And when you add your own assumptions, your own interpretations, your own real world knowledge to the question, then throw it out the window. You've got to read exactly what they're looking for, exactly and only the conditions that they're providing, and then find the best answer. There's not always going to be a perfect answer. And there are times when you're going to look at that and you say, oh my God, I would never do any of these things. Well, your choice isn't in there. There is no right answer. So you got to throw out what you do and you got to accept one of the ones that they do. So, and I get people who gripe about that on our practice tests. Your question is all funky and wrong, and that's not what you would do. Dude, you're missing the point here.
Yeah, definitely missing the point.
Take it at face value. Network mage for you, Scott.
Why were the medieval times so long? The short answer is because they were having so much fun. The more textured answer, if you really want, I can go there. The interesting thing, teaching it at a college level and studying, I was actually studying for my PhD when I dropped out to go work with Mike and write computer books and teach, is that the whole concept of medieval varies in time and place. So what we consider medieval in one place might be already Renaissance in another. And the same thing with the Renaissance, just saying, oh, the Renaissance happened and it's X date. You can't go there. You have to go country by country. And it's much more complicated than they teach you in school. So it's just in from Mike.
Okay.
Just a long, long no with a lot of O's and an exclamation point. I'm guessing that's a no, he doesn't have COVID-19. I'm hoping that it's not the opposite reading of that same word. It's like, no, it's in the
no.
Down. I'm going with the hopeful one.
All right, that's great news for Mike. That's wonderful. Hacking.
Oh, no,
my background's in business. Yeah, right. So I read this network mage. Yeah, you've got a broad background. And that's one that translates into all kinds of careers, including IT support. So you bring in all those different kinds of experiences. And, you know, when you're talking about support of any type, it's all about problem solving, and there's a degree of people skills in there. So if you're law enforcement before that, you got the people skills, you got problem solving. Real estate, that makes you a criminal in every book. Kidding. Thank you, Brendan. Forensic investigator, computer hacking course, please. Hey, what do you like for computer hacking, Scott?
What do I like for computer hacking?
Yeah, maybe somebody that.
Kali Linux.
Okay, I'm thinking a course.
Oh,
we got the course from. I'm brain farting. Well, we got PenTest from Michael Solomon.
Right.
And then we've got the CSA, CYSA from Brent
Chapman.
Yep.
Those are both really good courses. But there's lots of other resources out there too. Jason Dion is pretty good. Very lively. And I misspoke on Mike's test. He was saying, no, don't go into medieval, not no, he got tested.
Oh, rats.
It's still unknown. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No medieval. Unfortunately, because of the 10-second delay or so, he was actually saying no after I'd already gone into it. So there you go.
Oh, well. Yeah, too little too late, Mike.
Yep.
Hope you're feeling better, bud. PvP Boy reminds us in interviewing something Scott already said, avoid jargon, tech speak, technobabble is the term Scott used. You're exactly right. So keep your language simple, keep your answers simple. Give an appropriate technical answer when they ask you a technical question. You know, what's the word for this? What does this stand for? We know that if you ask Mike, what does DHCP stand for? He's going to fail that interview, but you should know it. And as the rest of us should.
Right. So Courtney D, cloud is trending, but what about security? Isn't security just as important, if not more important, based on data vulnerabilities? Well, cloud is definitely trending. And the more it trends, the more you need to learn security. So even if you are just doing cloud administration stuff, well, not even there. I mean, you need security is really important. In fact, CompTIA recently noted that Security Plus has actually outstripped A+ as being their #1 exam.
Oh, I didn't see that.
That tells you a lot. That the industry is seeing security, and the demand for people who are security trained is very high. Yes, learning cloud tools like AWS, get a job. But also understanding security that goes into making the cloud work for everybody and not against your users is extremely important. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I like the phrase here, isn't security just as important or not? So you're trying to equate two things or compare two things that aren't comparable. Is one more important than the other? They don't exist without the other in the modern world. Which is more important, the car or the driver? Now, we're not too many years away from being able to throw the driver out of that equation, but for the moment, one doesn't happen without the other. Transportation doesn't happen.
So Dovia Naftali.
This is good, Dovia, because Scott actually knows the conversion rates for SETIs.
Exam fees and Dagana credits SETIs is so costly that the majority of us can't afford. Can't they reduce the cost? You'd think so. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we're not CompTIA, of course, so I don't understand why they set their pricing the way they do, or why the exams are arguably fairly expensive.
I may have some insight.
Pardon me?
I may have some insight.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Okay, so it's not CompTIA that sets the price on these. It's Pearson VUE, and it's negotiated because CompTIA doesn't, want to get people horrified. like the expense down in Ghana. When you move out of the US and Pearson VUE doesn't have the presence that they do, then they have to contract with other testing facilities. And so local economies drive a great deal of that. There's a franchise fee for becoming a tester, and then there's the facilities and again, all that local economy stuff. So it's not CompTIA driving this, it's your local, I don't want to say local, you know, it's not an independent thing because it's kind of done the same across the country, but yeah, it's all about businesses being able to survive in their particular economic world.
Interesting. Good perspective. Thank you.
Okay. CP Glassman is CP Glassman. Corporal. Sorry, you're always gonna be corporal to me. Reference gave us the chapter and verse on where we talked about drivers and weather in the book. Thank you, Corporal.
I do edit the thing. I'm
Scott notes page numbers, dude, and paragraph numbers. Oh man, Greg MH59, your kids at Embry. So I flew with a lot of guys from Embry, and they're all the guys who are out of work when the downturn comes. Yes, let them be a fighter pilot in the Air Force. That's a good way to go. But for goodness sake, don't let them learn how to run an airport. I had an online interview with IT Tech Recruiter 2 years ago. He's an IT Tech Recruiter. He doesn't know what break fix is. Fine, he's a tech recruiter. He doesn't know all of the specialties and terms of every industry for which he's recruiting. I guarantee that. I have been through my fair share of those folks too. And what they do is they get in with the company that they're recruiting for. They learn what that company wants. They learn the buzzwords. They learn the gotta have criteria and the would like to have criteria. And they want you to get a job. They want you to get hired by these guys because, of course, as IT tech recruiters, they get a piece of that. So they'll spoon feed you the information that will get you that job. At least you may not be able to keep it. Let me give you a quickie. I was doing an interview. It has nothing to do with politics here, but it was for one of the Mrs. Trumps a bazillion years ago at one of the hotels that she operated in Manhattan. And this tech recruiter had two questions. He said, these are the two that you have to answer. And this is the two answers. And I never heard of these things before. And the internet didn't exist like it does today. I couldn't look it up. So I just spit the answers out. Well, yeah, I'd use a Delny to separate them, and I'd use a Demper to put them back together. And okay, that got me to the next level interview, but I never knew just exactly what the heck a Delny and a Demper was. I have learned since, but.
Here's one for you, Dave, from T. Plasman. How big is the Raspberry Pi market?
Okay, so we'll do this quick because I'm going to do all this stuff next Thursday. It's gigantic. There are multiple factories pumping out millions of Raspberries per year. And it's not about making money for those folks. It's about turning a profit on their products and driving that back into the education foundations that they support. They want people all over the world to become computer functional and computer literate. So short answer, I don't have their financials. I don't know how many made this year, but I know they got multiple factories making millions per year at the cheap ones that run 13 bucks a piece, at most of them that run 35 bucks a piece. The 4 gig is 45, and they got a new one announced a week and a half ago, the new 8 gig Raspberry Pi at 75 bucks. And wow, it's the only new model that I haven't ordered yet because I like to stay married, but I'll have it.
And the Pi is used a lot in pen testing too. So this is, you know, if you're headed that direction, getting comfortable on it is good.
Yeah. Oh, wait till you see all the stuff we talk about where it gets used. It's going to knock you out. Corporal's got a question for you, Scarhart. 1 word or 2?
1 word spelled correctly.
There you go.
Just like that. That's my Steam handle.
Oh, Andy St. Louis. Glad you like that one. We do a lot of videos and we have a lot of fun with some of them, yeah. But by far and away, the Twilight Zone, the social engineering zone, is my utter and absolute favorite of everything we've ever done.
Yeah, that one was very fun.
Man,
it was fun to do. I didn't write it. I think Ford wrote it.
Ford
right?
wrote that.
Yeah.
Michael came up with the lighting and the filming and then getting the cameras up on the multiple tables, and
yeah,
man, that was a great technical shoot.
Yeah, and of course behind the scenes it was hilarity and very dangerous. I mean, I'm perched on a table so that we get the right camera angle, but I'm perched on like a wobbly card table. Yeah, no, it was we had a lot of fun with that. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I got a message here from Michael Meyers. Just poking my nose in, cough, wheeze. Well, maybe it's just flu. I didn't know what that was till I Googled it. Okay. Mike, howdy. Sick as a dog, waiting for test results. EVP. What's Mike's line? Please wait. Reading now. Got Dave studying Sec Plus. I want to know what's the difference between black box, white box, and gray box testing. I don't remember. You, Scott? Yeah, you're writing the book. You ought to remember this.
Yeah, but I'm not to that section yet. It's been 3 years since
maybe Michael Smyer will post in a lovely message
reminder
shortly, and when we see it, we will reply in a few moments. Let's go with that. Michael, I was the one who perched on the bench with the camera. Yes, you were.
Yeah, but don't
we had that on a Pelican and the card table on that, and man, that was something. Oh man. All right, we'll get to this question, Network Mage. Michael's got some totally wrong-headed information here. No, it's right.
So yeah, thanks, Mike. That's a good point. Hack 5, great for pen testing and hacking. PSA, hey. So in case Mike's comment just before yours wasn't obvious, Mike is not here today, and it's Scott Jernigan and Dave Rush filling in for him because it takes 2 of us to make one of him as a poor substitute, but we try. And yeah.
All right, if you're still here, Mike Meyers, cool. Get the Tylenol, get some rest, feel better.
Yep, absolutely.
Corporal, okay, so Net Plus and Sec Plus are important. What kind of pay scale can one guess at? That's a totally unfair question.
Right. It's like, where do you live?
Right. Who's the competition?
If you're in a small town, they're going to pay a lot less than they're going to pay in Houston. And if you're in Northern California, they're going to pay a lot more. So,
and every bit of that additional money is going to go toward your housing.
And then some. You'll still be on benefits.
Yeah. So the right answer to that is to look at the job sites. Check out monster.com, check out indeed.com for the folks who are offering jobs and where you're willing to work, where you want to live, and what they're offering. And those folks who are looking for Sec Plus and Net Plus certification. We need a side business, Scott, career consulting, where we can become experts in that and be able to answer those questions.
So Alan, let me go back to your question on the black box, white box, or black box, gray box, and white box. So when you're doing penetration testing, if you don't know anything about the system that you're going into, that's called black box testing. When you know some things, that's called gray box testing. When you actually know the system and you're literally putting it through its tests, that's white box testing. So that's the kind of the nutshell of those.
Thank you, Michael. Save you money for CompTIA exam. Give blood. Donate plasma. Don't donate it, sell it. Kidding. But I have to tell you, a lot of my college expenses came from plasma.
Yeah, mine too. Different time, man. Very different time.
Yeah. You know what? If you got COVID antibodies, that's probably worth one heck of a lot more these days.
Right? I mean, I'm laughing, but it's not actually a funny thing.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of MSP, SOC analyst jobs out there. Got a base for A+ around here. Yeah, I'm going to guess in the Houston area, if a low experience, no experience, A+ tech, 25, something like that. Seattle, DC pay more. Okay. I went over device manager on Monday night, Scott and Dave. I think, a recent CompTIA test that I took, that was the #1 answer for 4 or 5 questions. What's your go-to utility to start with if you think you got a hardware problem? And we push that as well in Mike's courses. Start with device manager. Good tool.
Yeah. And let me tell you what's up.
PvP Voice, Scott and Dave, what are your processes for learning and memorizing a topic? You start that one.
Okay. I generally start with reading because that's how video training didn't exist when I was getting my degrees and stuff. So I tend to go to a book first, whether it's online or a paper book. It doesn't matter to me anymore. But that's my first source. If I can get some video training, that can be very helpful, because then it's like being in a stand-up classroom. I then take notes, because both reading, doing the visual and oral, hearing the information, and then the act of writing down notes on this stuff helps me in multiple different ways to master the material, to get questions on the material, and then to retain the material. So for me, it's a multi-part process. And then, of course, if I'm testing, then I'll go to practice exams. I'll do the stuff that we make. I mean, all the things that we do and we package together as this is the stuff. It's different ways of learning and memorizing the material, and depending on the way that you learn best and retain best is the approach you should take.
Exactly right. So we're a little different, not too far apart. I won't go to a hard print book anymore. I'll go and read online to the point of dangerous. And then I want to get hands-on. I'm totally into experiential learning.
Of course, yeah.
I find a hard time watching a lecture. I bore with that. But if I'm watching somebody who's doing something, I can follow along what they're doing. I can replicate what they're doing. I'm doing that. I make notes. If I'm with you on that, I make flashcards. There is an educational theory. It is the standard educational theory that says the more sensory input that you involve in the learning process, the more impactful is that process.
Right.
See it, hear it, feel it. Can you smell it and taste it? Sure, knock yourself out. So get all that input you can.
I jumped down to Network Mage. Now that Mike's gone, can I ask another medieval question? We have time at the end. Absolutely.
10 grams of vitamin C, huh? SIC 501 is the latest edition. Scott, that one's definitely for you. Thomas Robinson wants to know, is Security Plus 501 the latest edition?
Thomas, yes. Currently 501 is the current. Currently is the current. Wow. Okay, that was brilliant and insightful, don't you think, Dave? So 501 is the current exam, the current objectives. We don't have a specific date when 601 is going to go live, but we suspect, just from the timing and the 3-year cycle that CompTIA tends to stick with, it'll be late 2020 or very early 2021. That 601 will be the changeover, but 501, you'll still be able to take it. Then there's almost always a 3 to 6 month overlap between the old objectives and the new, just to make sure that they're not completely messing up students who are almost there and couldn't quite take their exam before the new exam went live, so they don't waste their studying time. So you've got plenty of time. 501 is still it. Those of us who are writing and preparing Security Plus 601 materials. We're right at the beginning of that process. So you've got some time.
Thanks, Scott. I skipped over a question that's got some feedback from other sources here. So Network Mage, why are so many IT professionals and developers using Mac? I feel like the only one who's a Windows person anymore. Okay, I don't use Mac. Scott's a Mac guy, and Michael Smyer is decidedly a Mac guy and has totally weighed in on that. Michael is of the firm opinion that the world of Windows, the world of PCs is becoming passe. It is destined to be a web application world. That being, if that's the case and it's true, then it is easiest to develop those kinds of things on a Linux Unix environment. And because Mac at its core is a true, honest to God, I'm not coming up with the word POS, whatever. It's a Unix system that is POSIX. Thanks you. It's POSIX compliant. It's a great platform on which to develop.
Right.
He added another comment of that. So he's number one because it's a full Windows Unix system, and he says back to Mac, it's user-friendly system, runs the same software as our Linux servers, and you may or may not have been following this in the most recent releases of Win 10. Microsoft is embracing a Linux world. They've got WSL, I think that's Windows Subsystem for Linux, and this newest 2004 release, they've expanded the WSL environment to WSL2. So they're incorporating a great deal more Linux into the Windows world. So it's okay. Don't abandon Windows yet. It's there. But come to my Thursday session and we'll talk other Linux. So Corporal may miss Thursday. That's okay. It'll be recorded.
And it'll have a banner pretty much just like the Mike's banners, but it'll be not an AMA so much as a presentation. It'll say Raspberry Pi and it'll be with Dave Rush. So it should be very obvious to pick out. I've seen the graphics that Michael's developed already for it, and it jumps off the screen.
Michael Meyers, sick as a dog, needs a vet. Andre. I'm sorry, we're going to have to block you for that one. Two of us make one of him. Yep. Columbus, Ohio has lots of cybersec jobs at banks. So I'm from Ohio. Little tiny town way up on the northern shore, or I guess the southern shores of Lake Erie in northern Ohio, from a little place called Vermilion, Ohio. And I have spent bazillions of hours and years down in Columbus, and more specifically in the Dublin sub-community just up on the northwest side. And my undergrad was 60 miles south of there, down in Athens, Ohio, at Ohio U. So,
and he spent a lot of time in banks, but that was a completely other job that we don't talk about because the statute of limitations has not gone away.
You know, I don't wear this beard because it's cute. 1995, Texas Aggie.
All right.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. I'm going to read this slow. And Scott, when you answer, you want to talk real slow. He's an Aggie.
Oh, ouch. Ouch.
Sorry, man. You know what? You grew up with it. You get Aggie jokes. That's what happened when you went there. So just found this. I'm having my 17-year-old high school student study for A+, Net+, Sec+, and the Microsoft Excel MOUs. I feel like this combo is a path to success. Absolutely. Depending on what your 17-year-old high school student wants to do for a career.
I think that might mean to keep busy for the entire summer.
It's a heck of an idea. I like that.
I have
as long as we're locked down at the house, let's work on Sec+.
I have two kids in lockdown here at the house as well, kind of accidentally. And yeah, my daughter, it's like, well, what should I do? What should I study? And I'm like, here, let's start with Net+.
Yeah.
Why not?
I got one for me here, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Davia Naftali, can you please briefly explain what the OSI model is? Yes. When I do it brief, it's not going to be great, but it'll be brief. So the OSI model is a non-thing. It is a tool that allows us to categorize networking tasks. A bazillion years ago, back in the 70s, somebody at the ISO, International Standards Organization, said, you know what, there's a bunch of companies that are interconnecting their computers. IBM is doing it, and Burroughs is doing it, and DEC is doing it, and so forth. And they're not doing it in a very compatible way. We are the International Standards Organization. We are going to create an approach that these folks could follow if they so choose and be able to communicate with each other. On IBM, we'll be able to talk with a DEC machine. And so they looked at the world of intercommunicating computers and said, we think that it can be broken down into 7 discrete functions. One of them is everything that has to do with the electromechanical characteristics of physically connecting 2 computers together. I need this kind of a wire, and it's this thickness, and it's going to have this kind of connector on it, and it's going to have this many conductors, and the electrical pulses that represent the 1s and 0s are going to look like this, and they're going to be sent this fast, and so forth. And they said all that stuff collected together is the physical layer, the lowest layer that we have at this model. And then they said, now here's some other things that are going on. Here's how computers find each other, and here's how computers know when they're allowed to transmit and when they have to listen. And they called that the next layer. We call that the data link layer, and it got subdivided along the way. And then there are logical ways for it to define itself. And there's only one that lives in 2020 now, the IP or the network layer. And then another layer said, how are we going to ensure that when a computer sends out a message, that it knows that the message was received before sending another one? Or what if there is a process by which we're allowed to just shoot out messages and chunks of data and don't care if they were received? So there were processes to do that from these companies. So ISO looked at it and said, here we go. That's another layer. That's the transport layer. And there's a couple other layers, and I'm going to tear them all apart here. We'll do a network class, or maybe Mike will do a full OSI. But OSI stands for Open Systems Interconnect. And it's not something that people develop for anymore. That's what ISO kind of envisioned. ISO said, we're going to have a physical layer. Here's all the things that it should address. And now IBM, when you make a token ring card, the physical layer should fit into this model. So it goes the other way around. We look at technology that exists now and said, what does the technology do? What does IP do? And okay, given the list of things that it does, that fits most neatly into this layer, this framework. That's what I got. Anything you want to add? Change?
I would take the next logical thing. Why do we study it?
Okay.
And how is it used? Right? It's used mainly in troubleshooting, and it's used for understanding how networks work, but we use it a lot in troubleshooting because when something happens on a network, networks are complicated things, right? We need to be able to have some framework to break down the question, what can the problem be? So by being able to differentiate between the physical layer and the network layer, for example, and understand the different processes of what's happening when a network message is trying to happen and fails, it just helps us to sort out whether it's going to be software or hardware, or where in the software it's going to be. So that's why we use it and why we study it.
Yeah, it's a great step-by-step troubleshooting tool in the networking environment. There's like 3 different approaches that you could use from that. You could do top-down. Is this an application problem? Is this a session or presentation problem? Is this a session problem? So forth. Or do it the other way around. I start at the physical layer and I work up. Or we do what is more commonly done, because you have a pretty good idea where you think the problem probably lies and where it doesn't. So we break it into a divide and conquer. Let's start here halfway up and work north or work south, something like that.
Okay.
Okay, hope that helps. Classman Canham for food. Thank you. And I wish there was a receptive abyss, an AI partner That's his eight. Okay, yeah, you need a translator. We all need AI.
Yeah, but I mean, the truth is sometimes having people to bounce stuff off and people that you know are fellow geeks, you know, once you do run into them, like us running into all of you, it's fun. Because it's like suddenly I'm not just that guy sitting in the corner at parties nursing a adult beverage all by myself.
Hey, I resemble that remark. Scott PvP boy wants to know your take on the future of Chromebooks.
Will Chromebooks take over the world? Why? Because they're incredibly simple to use. They're hooked into the Google ecosystem. They come with every tool you possibly need to be able to write, to do your taxes, to do databases. Oh, and they're inexpensive and lightweight. And I really like Chromebooks. And the younger generation, because Google has pushed hard to get Chromebooks into the educational environment, just like Apple did years previously, pushing Macs into the school environment. A lot of people are just not using. They're using the Google tools, and it's a good, inexpensive way for everybody to get computing power. So I like them. Are they going to take over the world? I don't know. What do you think, Pinky?
I doubt it. I think it's like early Android with a less steep growth trajectory. The interesting thing about Android in its early days is the limited availability of apps. That, of course, exploded, and we're all, 50% of the population is on them, and the other 50% are on iOS. And I personally don't see that kind of application support yet in the Chromebook world. They only run Chrome applications, of course, and web apps. So if and when, maybe if Michael Meyers is right and the world becomes a web app place, then they're a wonderful fit. And or if a lot more growth happens in the local application arena, yeah, but it's just not visible now. Everything I know about Kubernetes is the very quick notes that Michael has put up for us. Scott, you got anything other than what we're about to parrot?
Jay Jane.
Yes, Jay Jane.
What's the big hype about Kubernetes?
All right. I'll take a quick swing at it and try to interpret some of the notes that Michael Smyer has sent for us. How are we doing here? We got a half an hour to go.
Yeah, we got time.
So Kubernetes, go back to its origin, and that is containers. And containers takes a little bit to wrap your head around, but envision a container as an operating system that has all of its core functions. And now I want to create an app that runs on that operating system. And I don't want to add functions and DLLs and things like that to the OS. So I'll create a thing called a container. It's got my application, and it has all of the application, all the operating system support files that it needs in this one literal container, this package. And the cool thing about that then is if I'm running it on a Linux system, I can simply take that container, save it as a file, a container, and pop it onto another Linux system that runs the container software, and bam, it runs. Well, Kubernetes takes that concept, to my understanding, somebody may have a better handle on this, but it's taking clusters of containers, and Kubernetes is the tool to manage those cluster of containers. All right, I've taken what I know and I've parroted that into what Michael has provided for us, and now I'm out. If anybody else wants to throw in some other thoughts, Michael adds more. Scott's got something else to pile in. There we go. Man, getting lots of messages here. Glad you know Vermilion. I think I just saw that you were over in a neck of the woods that, Bowling Green. I did my, when I was in high school, back when this was an unusual thing, I took my first college class over at Bowling Green.
Nice.
BGSU. Hi, Terrence Tech. Good to see you too, man. Aggie.
There you go. Yeah, have them tune in.
Matchmaker Aggie, Scott.
I like it. My daughter is 24, almost 25.
Can a SIM be used on a small business level or SOHO setting? Yeah, can you use it? Sure, but that's not its real point. SIM is system monitoring and reporting, and so yeah, the small. It's SIM is all about monitoring and managing. It tends to be industrial actions, right, Scott? Watching the machine shop or am I thinking something else?
No, I think that's right.
Yeah, so you could do it on a local level. I don't see what's wrong. Yeah, I'm rethinking my original. No, sure.
So Network Mage, how important is PCAP analysis in cybersecurity? Very. And is Wireshark still the de facto two-master? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Wireshark is kind of the go-to tool at that level. Absolutely.
So I got a question about that the other day on one of the other forums. Give me an alternative to Wireshark, and I never think much about them except maybe Aircrack or something like that. So I went down the rabbit hole. There is nothing like Wireshark. I mean,
Right.
There's just nothing that complete. But there are neat little narrow niches of packet capture and analysis things that fit certain particular tasks that are kind of cool. So
Right.
That stuff is out there. But yeah, you want to speak Wireshark if you're going to get into this world. I see you understand troubleshooting, Dave, but the A35 is still not broken. The A35, my friend, is just an antenna and its function is nominal. So deal with it. A little 2001 reference.
Now instead of 365. Yeah, I mean, it's gaining traction.
Yeah. My college kid, who was also trapped at home right now, we were talking about 365 and something else, and he says the general go-to between students and things like that for quick down and dirty, when you don't need the massive editing power that lives in the 365 tools, G Tools.
Yep.
G Suite. I think some people are using Chromebooks the wrong way. Well, I've seen them used as doorstops, hammers. What do you got? What are you seeing, Geraldine? One of the things to be aware of, says Tulawit, with Chromebooks is that there is an expiration on the OS. After a few years, they stop updating and advise you pretty much to buy a new one. I wasn't aware.
I was not aware of that either. Good information
to look into. And sure, thanks. Tulawit, at that point, wipe it and put Linux on it. I have definitely seen people put Linux on Chromebooks, and there are a bazillion how-to videos on how to do that. Corporal, if one is used to Android and its functions, is it really advantageous to be thoroughly versed in iOS? No. My opinion, pick one that you're happy with, get good at it, become familiar and comfortable with the other one. You're going to encounter people who prefer that environment. You want to be able to talk to them and work with them and coordinate, but you don't have to be an expert in both, I would think. Depends, I guess, on what you want to do. If you're writing apps that are co-platform, you'd probably better get pretty good at both of them.
And if you're help desk, you need to be both. You need both, for sure.
Yeah. Unless you're in one of those companies that says, our people will only use iOS, our people will only use Android.
Right.
Our company, of course, we have a corporate standard on the BlackBerry. So.
So what's our opinion of VR, virtual reality systems? My friend just
by all means, tell him about our VR, Scott.
His friend just bought a Valve Index and he's jealous, this PvP boy.
Heck
I
yeah.
am too. I think from everything that I've seen on, let me back up and answer your question. VR, the concept of it, we've all known since Star Trek. I mean, oops. Being able to create an environment around you and immerse yourself in that environment is like the ultimate goal of computing for me. Every VR system that I played with up to the Valve Index has been, okay, that's cool. My head hurts. Or I'm getting a little nauseous if I play something fast and furious for too long in VR. The Valve Index is supposed to be the thing that breaks it open all the way. So I'm incredibly excited about it. I think imagine if we all had Valve Indexes right now, we could be doing this as if we were all in the same room chatting together. I mean, that's where we're going to go, the holodeck, right? So yeah, I'm incredibly excited about it.
What's the one we have? Not Hyper something. Vive, HTC Vive.
Yeah. Vive Pro.
Yeah,
I mean,
so we got that for a class or for a shoot of one of the lectures. So and yeah, that got moved, dedicated to a room. We got people when you need a brain break, we head over to the room and throw on the Vive and go look at the Empire State Building from the on high. Vive Pro, says Michael. Okay.
It really is fun.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Network Mage and Michael are sharing a common thought here about Kubernetes. They're analogizing Kubernetes as kind of a hypervisor for containers. So, okay.
And whereas Michael responded specifically to that it's more like a tool that manages a bunch of hypervisors. So think a little bigger if you want to go with that analogy.
Thomas Robinson, does NSA still use Windows XP Pro? Okay, I know it's a joke, but something to be aware of. High-tech agencies in various governments tend to lag on adopting newest, latest, greatest anything. They're very much into, if it works, don't fix it. And when you bring me something new, you darn well better prove it.
Right. And yeah, just buy another Chromebook, Tellowit. Don't put Linux on another one for your 73-year-old dad.
Hey, I'm going to throw up a screen thing, Scott. This is kind of a quick down and dirty. Something that Mike has been talking about for a little while. And what we did is lots of folks have been asking Mike, where do you go get information? And for all of us, that changes day to day, depends on our needs. However, we do have some go-tos, and we all made some lists today and compared notes, and we've done this over the last couple of days, and threw up a list of interesting sites and kind of categorize them. And I'm just going to throw them up here real quick. He said, clicking the share screen, I'm learning this thing. Oh, I got to go over here. Stand by. Change this to this.
Standing by. Standing by.
That's it. Now we move up there. And then put your left foot in. Click that. Click that. Hey, and we've got something like a screen. That on screen?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to breeze these ever so quickly and just let you know what some of them are and some of them aren't. And Mike uses some of these. He has some other ones. So I've broken these out. Some of them, this first pile of them is where we go and research and read about technology aspects. CNET, they're not super techno. They're kind of newsy, but very oriented in tech news. They're not just PC. They talk about car technology and all kinds of cool things like that. Hardforum.com, long favorite of mine. It also goes by Hard OCP. It's not adult, as it might sound. They're a stem of hard OCP, the overclocker platform. There are folks in there who, if you're in the overclocking hobby, this is where they compare notes. I took this machine and I did this settings, and this failed and this worked, and so forth. And then they opened up a broad hard OCP is closed. If you go, actually, Michael, I see your note here that says hard ECP is closed. If you go to hard that thing, OCP.com, it redirects now to hard forum.
Yeah, and the forums.
There's a lot of sub forums on there for general. You don't just have to be an overclocker. So if you want to buy and sell hardware, if you want to get into this SATA drive or that SSD or whatever. Tom's Hardware, best known for product evaluations and comparison. What else, Scott?
They do. They have. Anytime I'm researching a system and I'm ready to replace a computer, I go there and look at their lists of what kind of hardware. What's the sweet spot for my money? Almost always they have an up-to-date list of video cards, of CPUs, of RAM, of hard drives, of SSDs, M.2 drives, whatever. They'll have it there, already researched, already tested against the kind of games that I want to play, because that's why I compute, by the way. It's all about the games for me. So yeah, it's a great site.
Then we got Anand Tech, run by a gent whose last name is Anand. He does real deep technology techno reviews on various products, and of course there's a large participating forum in there. Other things, but that's the core key.
Just
hopefully
a quick correction.
Yeah, good.
Quick correction. Anand is his first name.
Oh, okay. I was last.
Anand Lal Shimpi. He started the website, which is arguably one of the best on the planet, when he was 14.
Oh, wow. I never knew that history.
Quite an interesting guy.
Cool. I wrote him once, and we had a quick couple of back and forth emails about a topic that he had broached, and I was getting some clarification from him, and he was very kind to have responded and provided me that info. So kudos to him. No surprise to anybody, my common go-to site, I spend so much time with Raspis, is raspberrypi.org. Go to the main menu. There's a nice forum under there and lots of other goodies. PC Part Picker, Scott. Lots of folks here know about it, so you don't.
This is a great site for looking at the pieces of hardware and put your system together. How much is it going to cost? So once you've done some research and you're like, okay, the game I want to run requires this level of hardware to run decently and this level of hardware to run great, right? Then you can go to PC Part Picker and just start putting together a machine. And sometimes you're like, oh, yes, getting that new 2080 super card, that would be awesome. $750. I don't think so. It's that awesome. So, but it gives you a chance very quickly to put together a system that you think or know is going to work together. That is, of course, assuming that you're a hardware geek like me and Dave, and we build our own systems. If not, then go buy a Dell. But it's great for doing custom rigs.
All right, we're running down to 10 minutes to go. I'm going to just zip through a couple of these. ARS Technica, Verge, great PC and technology news sites, and tech. Y Combinator, that's hacker news. And Michael sent me a message that says if you want to know what's newest and latest, greatest coming up in the PC and techno world, go to news.ycombinator.com. Gizmodo, that's a Scott site. They talk about all kinds of gizmos and gadgets. You're into Macs, 9 to 5 Mac, current technology, upcoming rumors. I'm not going to read or I'm not going to detail all these. You can see them, come back and review them on the recorded site if this rolls by too quickly. But I do have to give a moment to Reddit. So Reddit is these days the master forum for every kind of topic out there. I thought it was really interesting. I was doing a little research this morning on a couple of these that I don't do frequently, CNET and Reddit. So I thought, well, I want to find all the sites that kind of qualify as that type of usage. So I put in CNET and Reddit into a search box, and it said there's a subreddit for CNET. I just thought it was totally cool. So when we threw out Reddit in our poll, in our internal company poll this morning, that says what Reddits and subreddits do you go to? Here's some of the more popular ones on the list, and gotta recommend the CompTIA one, of course. They talk about CompTIA testing. They talk about job prospects, lots and lots of things. If it's got to do with CompTIA before, during, and after the fact, take a trip there. Networking in general, how can I learn subnetting? Well, watch Mike's video. Well, I need more. Okay, go talk to these folks. They've got good insights, and if they don't have the answer, they'll point you to a place. You get the idea. Two big news sites above and beyond these kind of mix and match ones, Tech Radar and PCMag.com, very PC oriented. I want to get pricing on that new motherboard. Well, I'm with Mike. You're going to find me on Craigslist. You're going to find me on eBay. But if we're going to buy retail, the big three computer component retailers, Micro Center, Tiger Direct, and Fry's, and of course, Amazon. And all of those have used and open box stuff too. There are 175 search engines out there, and we all know the big 2 or 3, Google, Yahoo, and Bing. And lots of people have lots of opinion. Newegg. Sorry, man, I forgot Newegg. You know, I was trying to write Tiger Direct when I made this slide this morning. For me, my first go-to is DuckDuckGo. I like them because at the time they were sort of peaking. They were the only one that didn't collect information on you. Some of the other sites now say they don't. I throw Dogpile in because it's fun every now and again, and because Scott has a strong recommendation for Dogpile in a number of his courses. You got any thoughts on it, Scott? Why we like Dogpile? Don't care.
No.
Okay.
You sure?
I got to tell you, you get a lot of feedback on one of the courses of yours that I moderate. Says, "Wow, I never heard of Dogpile. I really love that now that I've experienced it. So worthwhile." And Mike has mentioned on numerous occasions his go-to these days is startpage.com. So these are great. We like them. Go out and use a search engine to find other search engines. There's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of them. All right. Anything to add to this before I kill this slide, Scott?
No, I think you did a great job, except for the Newegg thing.
Thanks. Yes, definitely Newegg. All right, take over while I go find how to get back to where we were.
Yeah, Thomas Borg. Reddit is the best. If only there was a way to confirm the credibility of advice people give. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, everything comes with a grain of salt, doesn't it?
Yep.
Anand got hired years ago by Apple. There's a whole history behind him. We'll just have to go look that up. If you don't see devices on homepage, click more. Sorry, I got VR chat classes. Yeah, I think that would be so cool to get all you guys in on a chat. In VR, we can see everybody, or at least the avatar. There are rooms out there with people meandering about them in VR. You can walk through them. Back up, Dave. Oh, thanks.
We have our director in the background.
Yeah, that's right. And
in our ears.
I was trying to get closer to read the chat on here from the admin console. Okay, I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so here comes everybody else's Reddit choices. SCA, thank you, Tolowit, no surprise. Photographers, yeah, if you got a hobby, if you got an interest, there's a subreddit for it.
Yep.
Reddit's the best. Oh, I found your Reddit's the best. Need to add Newegg, you did. Nice question.
C. Plasman has.
Oh, yeah, I meant to mention crucial.com too. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. Crucial is great, just because, especially because of their memory. When you're upgrading memory, it's a great place to go. You went to Crucial to detect your RAM and shop for another at Amazon PC Picker, and the stick it suggested is not the same. It's better if both RAM sticks are the same. Modern motherboards are pretty good about just handling it. I tend to keep within a single channel on a motherboard. I tend to go with identical RAM still.
Me too.
I will mix and match between channels if I need to. So lots of thanks coming in. Thank you, Dr. Quinn. Thank you, C. Plasman, Terrence Tech. No, I think doing this live stream, even though we had a little more preparation time than Dave when he filled in last time, it's still a challenge. And it's fun because this is also the first time that we got to debut doing more than one of us. So you can see that this will be Mike and Elaine, hopefully next week. And being able to get in there and let you see our shiny faces.
I'm gonna do my commercial one more time before we get ready to shut down.
Please do.
That'll get ready to remind everybody about codes for discounts. So next Thursday, next week, and of course this Friday, Mike is feeling better, or if not, we'll fill in again if he wants us to. But next week's normal schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the Mike AMA, and on Thursday, if anybody's got any interest in Raspberry Pi stuff, I've got a whole bunch of cool stuff. I'll take any questions. We'll take broad range questions, but I'm going to keep them short. Mike, this is his bailiwick. We want him to do it. He wants to do it. So we're going to try and generally keep him focused on it, and we'll do it if he's not available, but he's the guy. He's our go-to. But if you're at all interested in Raspberry Pi, and especially how to use them as a learning tool for Net Plus, A Plus, Sec Plus, pen testing, some other things, I've got that. I'm going to go above and beyond that. You get the idea. All right. So next Thursday
just to clarify, Dave,
2 o'clock, please.
that's a week from tomorrow.
The 25th. Yes,
Right.
A week from tomorrow, next Thursday.
Just to clarify.
There you go.
So as we've been doing since Mike started this, just because you're here, we want to make sure that you have the tools you need to finish your studies, to deal with the fact that we're all quarantined well, most of us are still quarantined. And at least our schools are shut down and everything. So to keep you studying, we have specials for you. You just go to www.totalsim.com and typing it in the live stream right now. 50% off our Total Seminars A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus super bundles. That's the videos, the simulations, and the practice tests, and on all standalone CompTIA Total Tester practice tests. That goes well beyond just A Plus, Net Plus, and Security Plus. We also have PenTest Plus, ITF Plus, Cloud Plus. So
CYSA.
CYSA Plus, yeah. So good discounts. We're not trying to take advantage of you, quite the opposite, trying to be as helpful as we can during this really complicated time.
Thomas Borg, we only got to catch the last 5 minutes. When's the next Q&A? We do them 3 days a week under normal circumstances, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 o'clock Central. We run for 2 hours or till questions run dry, whichever comes first. Next week, we're going to do one extra session, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but normally every day for the foreseeable future, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 o'clock Central Time. You work on the instructional stuff in course. This AMA is amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Corporal. Much appreciated. Thomas Borg. Mike should be back this Friday. The world is holding its collective breath so we don't sneeze on him. Espen wrote some instructional manuals in the oil field and casino. Yeah, I get that. I'm getting a handle on your casino work. Thanks till next time. PV Point, thank you. All right, looks like we are in the wind up mode. I'm going to do my goodbyes. Many thanks. You guys are very kind to indulge us. We're not Mike, as Scott has said. We do our best to fill in, as poorly as that may be, and add some different and modified perspectives to us. But it's been a real pleasure having you here. It's been a pleasure being with you, and look forward to doing it again. And if not doing so, staying behind the scenes. Love talking with you guys and love researching your questions behind the scenes.
And I'll add to that. Thank you so much for indulging us and hanging out and asking great questions and just being part of the Mike Meyers AMA. So keep it up. We'll see you on Friday.
See you Friday. Go ahead and kill us, Michael.
Until then, this is Uncle Scott. Bye-bye.
Good night.